Welcome back to Square Off. Arizona Senator Kyrsten Sinema logged a lot of miles last week. Arizona activists followed her to the Boston Marathon last Monday, hoping to protest on the route. Her office said Sinema attended the marathon but didn't run. By week's end, the New York Times reported Sinema was often running to Europe for fundraising event. And there still was no word on any compromise that would win Sinema's vote on a House social infrastructure bill known to many voters by its cost, $3.5 trillion. Let's bring in our insiders who will tell us how this deal will get done. Tony Cani, a Democratic strategist and deputy director of the 2020 Biden campaign in Arizona, and Marcus Dell'Artino, a Republican consultant at First Strategic in Phoenix. Welcome back to Square Off.
Thanks, Brent.
So there's another self-imposed Democratic deadline 2 weeks from today to pass the House Infrastructure or Reconciliation Bill and the bipartisan Senate Infrastructure Bill that Sinema championed. Tony, yes or no question, will these bills get passed and sent to the president in 2 weeks?
It needs to. I mean, this needs to end soon. And I think that, Sinema was elected not as a moderate. She was elected as somebody who can get things done. And she's going to need to, make that deal happen that she's been working on. Otherwise, I think that there's going to be some real consequences, really for Democrats and if Biden's agenda fails.
Marcus, my sense is that Senator Sinema might use all the leverage she can get, which means this could go to the end of the year. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm with Tony. It needs to end, mainly because people like Tony and I are tired of getting calls from DC journalists asking us who Kyrsten is. She's created just a flurry of activity out of there. I think ultimately, at the end of the day, it's going to get done. There's no doubt about it. I think there's going to be some tweaks to it, and I think that she'll be all the better of a candidate for it by the end of the passing and signing of the bill.
Okay, so I promised viewers we're going to tell them how it ends. Same question for both of you, starting with you, Marcus. How does it end? What does Sinema need to get this done?
There'll be a little compromise. I think the price tag's going to start coming down. I think that there's some things contained within that bill that she's not, and frankly, don't relate directly to the bill, which, as we all know, DC does all the time, right? We'll throw in a shrimp farm in a national defense bill. And that type of activity is going on. I think some of those things will get stripped out. I think the price tag will probably come down a little bit. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I think everybody will, on the Democratic side, will claim victory.
Tony, her absolute must-have seems to be that the House vote on the bipartisan Senate bill first. Is that doable?
Sure, I guess. I mean, I think that this procedural stuff is interesting to us, but when it comes to people looking from the outside, people just want to get this done. I mean, there's some really popular stuff in this proposal. It's not some crazy liberal left-wing thing. I mean, every senator but two on the Democratic side support it. That includes, moderates like John Tester and Amy Klobuchar. And so, I think that something is going to get done, and how they negotiate the different procedures and stuff, I think that the urgency that everybody is feeling, including the senator, is going to win out the day. And they're going to find some sort of a compromise, and everyone hopefully is going to hold hands and be really happy about it afterwards.
We'll see about that. Let's move on to the Republican primary for the U.S. Senate, the race to face Democratic Senator Mark Kelly in November of 2022. Arizona Corporation Commissioner Justin Olson jumped into what is now a five-man race. He's a former lawmaker, former chief financial officer at Turning Point USA. They're a major Trump backer. Marcus, should Justin Olson scare anybody in this race?
Well, it probably the biggest hit was probably to Blake Masters, I would assume. I think he thought he might get Turning Point support, which in turn would also mean probably former President Donald Trump's support. So for him, it was probably the biggest hit. But remember, he's got Peter Thiel's money funding his campaign. So he's from a money standpoint, he's not out anything. But I think that this means that sort of the national Donald Trump Republican base will start to sort of surround Justin Olson.
That's interesting. Justin Olson doesn't seem like he'd have anything in common with Donald Trump and his group. I'm watching that. You mentioned Peter Thiel, billionaire tech titan backing Blake Masters, and he's spending a lot of money on TV ads right now attacking Attorney General Mark Brnovich. We're going to put up a tweet that Brnovich posted on Friday with his nunchucks. Take a look, and then I'll have you react.
It's Arizona Attorney General Mark Brnovich. We've gotten a lot of calls, a lot of emails, but there's one thing people definitely want to see. They want to see more Chucks. So people, do you want more Chucks? You got more Chucks.
So a couple years ago, Brnovich posted a similar video inside his office. It was much more casual and spontaneous, it appeared. As you both look at that video, what is that telling you about the way Mark Brnovich views this race? Marcus?
Well, look, Brnovich is definitely up in the polls. There's no doubt about that. There's been several polls out, and he's up significantly. But it's early in the race, and as you so aptly pointed out, he's already being attacked by his opponents. And so you've got to take this race seriously. The first time you could see it was sort of accidental and funny. Now it's purposeful. This doesn't do anything to accomplish getting out your message and being taken as a serious candidate. And I got to tell you, Mark Kelly's got millions in the bank, and he is going to be a tough candidate for Republicans. And we're going to have to get serious about how we best attack that campaign.
Tony, your feelings when you saw that video?
I thought this was the Trump primary for Republicans, but it seems like it's the awkward primary, and Brnovich is maybe jumping into the lead. That made me uncomfortable to watch. I don't know. When you're a staffer, you have a responsibility to make your person look good and likable and smart, and it's hard to put all these things together sometimes. But that was just embarrassing.
The good news is he just got free media from us on that
It's true.
video.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's the point, isn't it? But I don't know. How did we get here? To a U.S. Senate candidate showing off his nunchucks. And let's move on. Final topic. Donald Trump last week in one of his Save America PAC emails that have replaced his Twitter feed appeared to try to suppress his own vote, Republican vote in Arizona and Georgia and other states. Here's what he said. If we don't solve the presidential election fraud of 2020, which we have thoroughly and conclusively documented, Republicans will not be voting in 22 or 24. It is the single most important thing for Republicans to do. Now, the notion there was fraud in 2020 has not been thoroughly or conclusively demonstrated, hardly at all. Beyond that, Trump is saying if this phony crime isn't solved, Republican voters won't turn out in 22 or 24. Marcus, should he be saying that?
Merry Christmas, Tony. Listen,
a gift to Democrats.
I'm going to frame that letter and gift wrap it for you. So here's the problem. We went through this in Georgia, if everybody remembers, not too long ago, and it doesn't work out very well for Republicans. And so we've got to find a different tact and a different message that ensures Republicans are going to turn out to vote and not limit that vote. And the net effect of these statements is it leaves Republicans staying home, and it could have catastrophic consequences.
Tony, you cheering Trump on?
Well, I mean, the consequences to our democracy will be severe, let alone what it would mean to the Republican Party. But, his statements obviously will make fewer Republicans vote. But, efforts locally to say, to ban vote by mail, which is the most popular way for people to vote in Arizona. And in fact, for years, it was the way that reliable senior Republicans were voting. And Democrats, we were always chasing that. We could never, keep up with how popular it was among Republicans. But, we're not afraid of voters. We want voters. We just think we can win voters, hearts and minds and get their votes. And so, I think it will hurt Republicans, but the statements itself, trying to make our democracy look like it's not working, that's really scary stuff.
Got to end it there. Tony, Cani, Marcus Dell'Artino, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks a bunch, guys.
Thanks.